Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and I am in Santa Monica, California today at the AI Vibes Conference. And let me tell you, having all kinds of fun. And who do I see in the crowd, and who do I pick out if it's not Mr. Like Dow himself? Payam, man, it's so good to have you on the show and finally get you on the show.
Such a pleasure to be here, brother.
Man, so first off, what brings you to the conference today?
Tal and I actually met at this venue during Tech Week last year, stayed in touch, became friends. She came to a handful of Light Dow gatherings over the past few months. And just, a few weeks ago, she became a Dow owner. And now
that's awesome.
Now we're looking to co-create more AI Vibes, Light Dow partner events, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's amazing. For those that are listening to this that maybe don't know exactly what Like Dow is, maybe let's set the stage there. Talk a little bit about Like Dow.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to the Tao. In Eastern philosophy, the Tao is the way, the truth, and the one that is everything. In technology language, it stands for a decentralized autonomous organization, which effectively just means a community-based organization. So it's decentralized, and every DAO owner, who you could think of as a member of the community, takes on a level of ownership of co-creating with the DAO. So hosting gatherings around the world, whether it's virtual or in person. And these individuals are all heart-led, conscious leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, change makers, who care about doing good, being good for humanity, their own inner journey of personal growth, and also the external business world. So it's all about how we are creating value in alignment with our values, where when we do that, we're kind of sitting at the holy grail of life. And then when you couple the value creation with our value alignment, we call that purpose meets passion. And then value comes back, and you call that profit. So that's really what we're empowering for each person within the community, is how we align our value creation with our values. So this global community of conscious heart-led leaders has now grown to over 1,800. We've hosted gatherings in over 14
Congrats,
cities.
by the way. That's amazing. I've been following for at least, I believe, a year and a half or so now, I believe, when I was introduced. Maybe going on 2 years. I feel like I'm getting to be old school, man. Come on.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Yeah, we've launched or hosted gatherings in 14 cities now. LA, SF, New York, Dubai, Taipei, Puerto Rico, 3 cities in Australia, Indonesia, Shanghai, China, Rio, Milan, Toronto.
Yeah.
So we continue to grow. We continue to build community in each city that we go into, really to bring people together. There's been a loneliness crisis over the past, I want to say 2 decades, since really technology came into the day-to-day lives of humans. We've become digital creatures. And being digital creatures has, you could say to a certain extent, has taken away our time and being out there in the world, building real relationships with people that matter. And in the blue zones around the world, pockets of Japan, Costa Rica, and others, people live the longest. They have the longest life expectancy. The primary reason why people have the longest life expectancy in these blue zones is because they have a deep sense of community, deep loving relationships within those communities, and a sense of purpose and belonging with their relationships in those communities. So when you really, really break it down, what really matters in terms of fulfillment and happiness and abundance in life is having a deep sense of loving relationships with both self and others. Because 100% of our time every day is spent in relationship. And the more we align our values with ourself and with others, the more we're living in abundance. So that's part of the core of the mission of what the community is empowering, not just within our community, but each individual members' communities, because everybody within the community is a community leader, like your co-founder, Chirag, yourself. You guys have your own large community, which is why we continue to partner together on different events and gatherings. So far, we've done something together in LA and New York, and looking forward to helping expand everything that you guys are doing through more partnerships in other cities around the world. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the DAO, but that's just kind of on the surface, a brief intro.
Where did you originally come up with the idea and kind of get inspired to create this community and bring people together? Like how'd that take place?
Yeah, I had a very profound transformational experience of enlightenment about 3 years ago that shifted my perception of what is. And that experience was triggered through a daily practice of journaling. So every day I would journal two things predominantly. I'd wake up, I'd express three things I'm grateful for that day, and three positive affirmations through I am statements. So every day when I would wake up, I'd write things like I'm grateful for family, food on the table, traveling, health, education, whatever it might be that day. And on the affirmation side, I'd write things like I am love, I am courage, I am fearless, I am a family person, I am a creator, all these things.
Yeah.
And 6 months into that process, I started writing I am light every day. And I was like, this is interesting. Why am I writing I am light every day? So I just continued to meditate, journal about light. I was like, well, if I'm light and, you know, there's other light, I just started examining all the other light. And I was like, why is, if I'm light, there's other light. Like I started looking at all the light from a light bulb, light from a flashlight, light from a laser beam, light from a candle, light from the sun. I was like, all right, well, what's this relationship?
Wow. You started, so you made a study of light after that, like literally.
I literally started studying light.
Wow.
And I'm a computer scientist, so I'm kind of
wired for that.
Wired to analyze things at this level. So as I started studying all these different light sources, I came into the awareness of how simple light actually is. When we examine all these different light sources, it's very, very simple. All light is only doing four things, and four things only. One, light has a direction. Two, light intersects with all the other light in infinite directions. Three, light just keeps going in its direction. When it travels in space, it doesn't end, it just keeps going. And four, that direction that it's going in where it's not ending, it's always going where it hasn't gone before. It's always doing these four things. And every experience that we are all having is a manifestation of how light is in these four ways. There's infinite examples of how light is in these four ways in our experience. But just to give a few examples for the listeners, we all have memory of the past and vision into the future. That is a manifestation of light having direction. Our soul experiences love. Love is another manifestation of the direction of light. Our soul also experiences fear. Fear is a manifestation of the absence of light. Number four, light is always going where it hasn't gone before. The infinite emotions that we feel on that spectrum between love and fear is a manifestation of light intersecting with light in infinite directions in the absence of itself now. When we close our eyeballs, we experience darkness. When we open our eyeballs are photon receptors. Everything that we receive in our field of vision is light emanating in the shadow of ourself. In outer space, the two goalposts are supernovas and black holes. You can call supernovas as one or light, black holes as zero or dark. There's infinite degrees of consciousness on the spectrum of 0 to 1. That is the light and the dark that is now. There's a word called enlightenment with the word light in it, which is the levels of awareness of being light. We are all on this journey of enlightenment together, whether or not we're aware of it or not. This is part of what's happening. So, you know, there's many examples, there's infinite examples, but the kind of lesson or what came into awareness for me is like, oh my God, like I'm light, you're light, everything is light. Now we've used the word light, and that in itself is a distinction or delineation that the mind makes that is quantifying the infinite quanta on the spectrum of 0 to 1, that is the dark and the light that is now. And that is the metaphysics or the quantum mechanics of it. And then there's just the awareness of how to be. And that was the next shift, or what I call the transformation that occurred, is being more aware of the being. And as human beings, our being is our primary state. And our being is composed of our values, as I mentioned earlier. So when you start coming into that awareness of the being is values, and the being of values that we're living manifests all of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And then everything that we speak, or the words that come out of our mouth, are expressions of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And in our environment, everything reflects back into ourself. Our values are updated. Our being is evolved. That is the regenerative cycle of being that we're living. And it's not artificial intelligence, it's organic intelligence. So this is the natural flow, or the way of life that is happening in our being. So the more we're aware or conscious of our state of being, we flow in abundance more and more, and gravitate in that direction. So this awareness of consciousness became a trigger for wanting to empower more people to be aware and intentional with who they're being, how they're living, how they could be more aligned in life, how they could be more abundant, and do the things that they love and the passions to match with the profit, with the purpose that we all have. It's about being in tune and coming into, an awareness of who we really are, and what really matters to us, and what do we care about. And, again, you value something, I value something. Because of these differences, our being is unique. And so we all have these superpowers in us that is in alignment with these values. And if we can start to find those things by becoming more aware of them, then that's when we're really, really being a more healthy person in life. And that's ultimately what we all are yearning for, is more love and happiness in ourselves and our relationships.
So you have this, to say that you go through this study and go through this enlightenment period, I mean, probably an understatement to say it that way. But so now you have this concept, you have a completely new understanding of light, that I would argue, versus when you started it. Now you're thinking you want to bring other people together, and you're thinking maybe you're using the word community at this point, maybe you're not. I mean, I don't know exactly what stage you're at, but what's next? Like, how do you come to the point to where you find your, I'll call it, vehicle that is Light Tao to realize that mission?
Yeah, from a societal standpoint, we currently live in states or countries that have these borders that have been defined based on a set of frameworks and laws that a set of body of humans have, agreed to. And over time, these are evolving. And then some things are also evolving, but there's some things that have been set within how this evolution is happening. So more concretely, think about the Constitution of the U.S.
Yeah.
It was written in 17-something, late 1700s. So it's been 250-ish years or so. And the U.S. Constitution was written by men from around 250 years ago. And of course, there's some amendments, but it's more or less the same written Constitution.
Yep.
But what if there's a consensus-based constitution based on trust in a network? Now, a governing body, call it a DAO, it could be Light DAO, it could be another DAO, and we're all about empowering more DAOs for humanity. Part of that is because when you have a community of anything, whether it's the Mission Matters community or Light DAO community or a DJ community or whatever it is, or a village in El Salvador, there's a group of people, call it a community, that are aligned in values and are creating value and exchanging value amongst one another to create more value together, defining the needs and products of the services that fulfill the needs of that community. And everybody is incentivized and encouraged and is aligned on creating more value and abundance within that community. That's what a DAO is structurally.
Yeah.
So if you have a set of values-aligned humans that compose this community, and they have the tools to develop a consensus-based constitution based on trust, which is value alignment within that community, now you're empowering each community, which could be a Democratic Party, it could be a Republican Party, it could also be the United States, on how they're governing in a new way that encourages and co-creates and more abundance the values alignment within that community. So we're talking about the future of where the borders, if you want to call it,
Yeah.
are set by each DAO-like community. And that can span what we currently call boundaries. And
That's exciting.
That's the future that's just insight into how
Yeah.
the future will look and how these network states are going to evolve.
That's exciting. That's hopeful to me.
Yeah.
Like to think that, because these boundaries at some point, I like that you bring this up. I mean, even the Constitution, all this was just a group that at some point agreed to it, whether it's
Right.
consciousness, whether it's the people that are there at that moment or otherwise. I mean, it's a group of individuals that agreed to it. So now to have like what's going on with like DAO and some of these breaking down some boundaries and thinking about like what's next and all these communities coming together, I think it's exciting, man.
Yeah,
I think it's
very
super exciting to see. And I'm on your newsletter, I see it, and I'm like, it started with, and then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how many events, or where are you at? Hold on, what's that? You named a couple of them. I'm like, man, I can't
There's
keep
a lot
up with
going
it.
on,
It's
yeah.
amazing, though.
There's a lot of AI, there's a lot of blockchain.
What do you
there's a-
attribute some of that success to, though, with the community, with everything else? Like, what do you attribute that to? Because it's hard. It's very hard to do. Anybody that's tried to build a community or otherwise, like, what do you attribute that success, or why are people so, like, why do they gravitate towards it?
Yeah, I would ultimately say it's humanity triangulating towards truth. And we're all trying to figure out what we're doing,
Yeah.
why we're here, what matters, what
Yeah.
doesn't matter, how do we spend our time. But ultimately, all of these things is you and I can look at each other and we can recognize each other and we can nod our head and say, And every time that's happening, it's an acknowledgement of a truth. So there's this concept of truth. And then there's like, okay, well, if there's this concept of truth, then we can say that there is truth.
Right.
And if there is truth, then you could say, well, there's no not truth. And then there's an agreement at that, which is, again, confirming that there is truth.
Right.
And if you then ask what causes pain, suffering, and everything in the world, it's a disagreement on truth. A lot of people might call that concept God.
Yeah.
So why is when you lead with love, and love is light, which is the highest vibrational emotional frequency of light, and you can call fear the lowest vibrational emotional frequency of light or darkness, and dark and light are in duality as one, so they're not separate. But when you come into the awareness of this truth, then we can start having the same conversation on what truth is. And that's a gravitating conversation.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to be in knowing of a truth.
Absolutely.
No, it's like the feeling of being left out. No one wants to feel left out. Everyone wants to feel like they're in. And then it's like, well, what is it? What's that in? It's an in of what are we as humans in agreement that ultimately what really matters, which is that we're all one. We're all one. We're
Yeah.
all here together. We're not here together. So we can have these conversations. We can start aligning. Doesn't matter if you're Hamas in Palestine or Israel with Jews, because if we start agreeing that what matters is this truth, and we can agree on that, and then everything permeates from there. And that's the force.
Yeah.
That is, you can call it a glue.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I get it, and I see it. And the fun part is I've never had this conversation with you before, so I can see it evolve, and I know there's a lot behind it, but this is my first time getting a chance to see, like, what's going on in your head. How did this start? Like, so I guess the last piece of this part is what's next? We've been to where you're at, where you were, we've been to present, like, what's next? What do you envision?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of steps between now and network states. For example, being fully, like, we're all aware, we're opted in, we're exchanging value on the blockchain, and kind of all of these things, right? So like that's kind of future state, and we're not that far away from it, because people that join LightDAO right now, they don't even know that a lot of people don't even know this token thing is a thing.
Yeah, I
They're just like,
understand
oh, I
that,
want to be part of this thing.
Yes,
right?
I understand that. It's funny. It's funny.
Right. So the technology is just a tool that is empowering what we're doing. It's not the thing that matters. So, in the next, 6 months, people are literally going to be part of this network state with tokens and a wallet that they could be using to exchange value within the community as a part of this network state. And they want to be even fully recognized that this network state is a thing. That's a concept that they're in. So going from like that to then where now everyone's not only in it, but also aware of it, and that this value exchange is happening across various communities, is a paradigm shift on even how we start using currencies, or
how we think of value,
how we think of
value.
How we think of value, exactly. So there's a paradigm shift over what value is associated to, like the way we define work when we pay someone, or who are we paying? That transaction will be much more, call it transparent or known, and that energy will flow much more seamlessly with less, call it middlemen. So the next steps are kind of this motion of growing the community, raising awareness, and all the fulfillment of finding really a deeper sense of knowing of self. And I only realized this or found out about this a year ago. I'm Persian descent. I'm Iranian. My parents immigrated from Iran in 1979 around the revolution. My grandfathers were ministers of education. They were running the education system, and they had to leave Iran because their head minister got assassinated during the time of the revolution. And that kind of knowing of what really matters from an educational standpoint is a tangent, so I won't go into that. But from a Persian background, the word for God is Khoda. It's Khoda. And the first part of that word, Khod, is self. And Da is knowledge. So the literal translation or breakdown of the word God in the Persian language is knowing self. And this is call it the journey of life, the journey of enlightenment, coming out of the darkness of our mother's womb. We come into the light. And this is an experience that we all have, whether or not we might remember the moment of birth, probably not, but this is something that happens. So this is the journey of knowing self. And that's part of the next phase, is how we all remember who we are in the truth that is. And this is part of, call it the collective consciousness that's awakening. And it's all happening now. So humanity is starting to wake up into this oneness that we all are connected, and we all are here to support one another and care for each other and do things like this where we can hang out and do a podcast and also be friends. And that boundary of friendship and work is not actually two separate things, but it's really just relationship and doing life in flow where value starts being exchanged because we just want to continue to support each other. And that's ultimately that's the fun in life, when we can do things where we could do this thing called work and business, but also have fun and hang out and go on trips together and invest in one another and do podcasts and go to the beach and all of it.
Of course.
I only want to do that kind of stuff with the people I'm very values aligned with. So that's all part of the next step.
I love it, man. Exciting. Last thing, I want you to look into the camera, tell people how they can learn more about Light Dial, upcoming projects, follow you. I need to hear how people can learn more.
Yeah, on socials, we're findable on Instagram. It's light, LIGHT .DAO. That's DAO. We have our website. It is wearelight.one, ONE. Those are the two best ways. From there, you can see a bunch of information. You can follow us. You can join. If you're an investor, an entrepreneur, then you can submit your registration form, and we'll accept you. And you could join us at a gathering in person in one of the cities that we're in. So I appreciate your time, Adam. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate that. And for everybody that's watching and listening to this, just so you know, we'll put the links to the website and all that good stuff in the show notes, so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't hit that subscribe or follow button yet, make sure you do that. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're putting out new episodes, new content, bringing you new stories to help you along the way. way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button because tomorrow you're going to get that notification. We got another episode for you. Come on. Payam, again, man, I'm so happy we finally got to do this. Thank you so much for coming on.
Give me a hug. Come on.
Give me a hug. Come on. Hug it out. Come on. We're in. So
Appreciate
good.
Appreciate it, brother.